Now, if you've been following the trajectory of the political campaigns in Nigeria, you would have heard the increasingly bitter rhetoric that's swirling around the leading candidates as the 2023 ballot edges ever closer. Take the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, for example. Even as the latest polls show him to be comfortably ahead of his rivals, and Mr. Obi's supporters insist that he has become an ideological symbol of the fight for justice in Nigeria, a fight which they say is being led by the youth and all those who yearn for a new generation of honest, committed leaders. His detractors have been damning in their indictment of him. In a stridently critical message delivered in an interview on Arise News, a leading member of his former party, the PDP, Reno Omokri, was unflinching in his portrayal of Mr. Obi as the least qualified and the most academically backward of the front-runner candidates. His words.
If you look at all the presidential candidates, the least educationally qualified, the most educationally backward, if you like, is the Labour Party candidate. Rabi Mr. Kwankwaso has a PhD in water engineering. Waziri Atiku Abubakar has a master's with distinction in international relations. And Bola Tinubu has a second class upper in accounting. And you have the Labour Party presidential candidate, Peter Obi, who had a second-class lower in philosophy. And if you put that together, it's obviously the lowest. And so when they were poking fun of Bola Tinubu, they have a number of their surrogates and a spokesman saying that, he didn't even go to the Chicago State University. I've said before, look, I do not like Bola Tinubu because I know for a fact that he's a known drug lord. However, I went to Chicago State University myself, physically, I went there. And I released photos. I went there to their exams and records office and I asked them, and they did tell me that yes, Bola Tinubu attended. He's a proud alumni of the institution, and that there is no doubt, there is no controversy about it. And that's what I wanted to make known to the public. If we're going to be criticizing, we're going to do that based on facts, based on truth. Because we cannot be going after a man with dishonest information or with lies. And if you look at what Bola Tinubu has said, and if you look at what Peter Obi has said, Peter Obi, in terms of lies, he's told much more lies than all the other presidential candidates.
Well, that's Reno Omokri there, who is a member of the People's Democratic Party. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by Valentine Ozigbo, who's a former governorship candidate in Anambra State and is currently Special Advisor on Technology and Strategic Alliances to the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi. Valentine, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much, Charles. Thank you.
It's all getting increasingly vicious in this campaign, isn't it? Mr. Omokri there suggesting that Peter Obi, in his words, is the most academically backward of all the candidates and tells a lot of lies. What's your reaction to that?
I wish we actually should focus on the real issues. I'm happy you also noted as election draws nearer, once you begin to see that this candidate is about to win, I'm going to throw all manner of mud at him, some vicious, some fragrant lies. But for me and for Nigerians, we should always go back to the real issues. Are we happy with where Nigeria is going? Are you tired of the status quo? What are you hoping should be the new dawn? What changes are we yearning for? And who is the right person for the job? We are recruiting the next CEO of Nigeria. So it really is about a total package. And I'll come to the issue of educational qualification, but it's a total package. And what is shocking, but not surprising anyway, but I have to say this also, you know that a lot of people make money out of controversy. When stuff like this are pushed out, they even get paid by the owners of social media because they are mopping up comments and all that. So people always want to get into, that's why we need to get away from the euphoria.
Yeah, in fairness to him, though, he said that on Arise News. So that was part of an interview.
Yes.
So he wasn't
so I know that already. So that's
right.
Enough incentive for anybody to go and spill some BS. But again, we're here on an interview. So what are the important things? please, Nigerians, we are talking about, I mentioned this in my last interview with you, there are 4 things that are important. First is the personality of the candidates. And by personality, we're looking at the C's, the character, the competence, the capacity, the commitment, and let me also add the compassion. Who has all this? And then number 2, what platform you are coming from is also important. Because if your party is muddled up in crisis and all of that, it actually impedes your ability to deliver on the goods. Number 3, the process of your emergence. If you're not the choice of the masses, of popularity of Nigerians, and you're rigged into the system, you're also not going to be able to deliver. And number 4, what messaging are you preaching? How are people resonating? How are you listening to the people? And what are you coming to do? These 4, for me, are the entire package. And when we come to the issue of number 1, I'm also happy to say that Nigerians have decided. The choice is clear. And so if you're talking about putting P2B side by side the other presidential candidates, the difference is miles in terms of character. And he always will be first to say to you, go and verify. And in terms of educational qualification, which is important, by the way, I think that P2B, obviously, way ahead. Incidentally, I followed him to a lot of his trips in the US and in the UK, where he went to the institutions he attended, beyond just the UNM, where he studied philosophy in 1984. But he had been to do executive programs in Oxford, INSEAD, Kellogg, Columbia, Harvard. What are you talking about? And someone like Reno. Anyway, I know Reno, so I usually don't want to pay attention to. If none that is coming from me, I actually will utter no response, because indeed some people ought to be totally ignored.
Right. Well, let me just make a quick point there, and in disagreeing with some of the things he said, which is that actually philosophy is a key area for a leader. Any leader who has a philosophical understanding of society understands how a vision ought to be created in a society, and it is out of that vision that you have followership and you lead a country and move them in the right direction.
For some of us who have risen up in the corporate world, we've learned a long time ago, it is important to be educationally qualified, but by far more important to be emotionally intelligent. Where you understand you're going to play in the emotions of people. You have to be humble to listen to what people are saying. You have to be authentic to tell yourself the truth. You have to be able to use the right words in communicating your message. And in all this, P2B is a total package. He is miles ahead. I can say this because I also know the other candidates very well.
Right.
So what I'm saying to you, therefore, is whereas Reno is thoroughly analyzing with just education, please let's look at the entire package. Let's look at the character, what they've done in the past. If somebody says, I'm here to fight corruption, has he fought corruption before? Does he even have the temerity, the confidence to even use that word, I will fight corruption? Because you can see from every poll, when we deal with insecurity, with corruption and governance, those are issues that are important. So if somebody says, I will fix educational, what did you do when you were in any position? If somebody says, I will fix insecurity, what have you done in the past? So these are the things that form character, integrity of the process.
I understand that part, but Mr. Mokri is not the only one who's been sniping at Mr. Obi and snapping at his heels. I mean, we heard the attacks not only from people like Charles Saluda, for example, who's the governor of Anambra State. Not only did he suggest that Mr. Obi's investments in Anambra were worth next to nothing, he also said that because of a lack of political structures, Mr. Obi would not win the 2023 election. He also said he would not win because of weak voting capacity in the southeast. We know that P2B has responded to that, but you are one of his special advisors, and as someone who ran for governor of Anambra State yourself, and you know Governor Saluda well, what do you have to say about that?
I mean, there are two things you've highlighted here. One is about the comments, and two, the chances of P2B winning. So for me, I think there's enough response out there, especially from elder statesmen, on what Governor Soludo has said. I'm sure right now he will be learning better how to speak going forward. But I can tell you for free that Governor Soludo honestly erred in his assessment totally. I don't know what might have informed him going in an unprovoked situation like this.
Well, I mean, he's saying that he's essentially doing this on behalf of his people, that Mr. Obi knows he can't win and should be advised to negotiate with the APC and the PDP. What is the basis upon which you believe that Mr. Obi can win?
So again, like I said, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I'm happy that he's been properly reprimanded by Nigerians, and especially those from Anambra State, because clearly everything he has said was on faulty premise. Now, let's talk about P2B's chances. You know, what I'm happy about is that every single poll has come out consistently putting P2B first. Every single one. And in some cases, some of these polls are coming from the opponents. And so if you look at whether it's from the ANAP polls, from the BSU polls, whether from the
latest one next year.
Just before we get to the letters, there's something unique about the letters, but the Bloomberg and all of those polls that have come out, We Together polls.
The Economist Intelligence Unit went against him.
No, not at all.
Because it actually said that Bola Tinubu is the one who's likely to win.
If you need to read the follow-up from the Economist, you understand exactly what the position is. The point here is P2B is seen as a front runner by miles. It's not just a close call. In some cases, a combination of votes of Atiku Abubakar and Bola Tinubu equals P2B's. That's remarkable for somebody from nowhere, like people would say. Labour Party unknown before. P2B never run for presidential before. Yeah, VP as a candidate. But to see that somebody can move from that, for me, some of us see this not just as divine, but also a project whose time has come.
Yeah, but can I just come in? Okay, finish what you're saying.
So, point here, therefore, is everybody who would argue will first of all admit that P2B will win the Southeast. Not just because it's from Southeast, but because people from the Southeast, they look at things in a very objective manner as far as I'm concerned. If you look at, there are people who would be running, even though from Southeast, they are not, I can mention them, but no need for that. That people from South wouldn't even bother. So when you look at the dominance of the polls in terms of margin that P2B is going to win, that is never contradicted. If you go to the South, similarly, every poll I've seen, a lot of them mostly from 60% and above. And when you actually go to the ground and see what is happening, when you go on campaign and you feel the pulse of the people, and you actually begin to see what are the drivers for this. Because it's coming from the youth saying we're tired of the status quo. And they see PDP and APC candidates as status quo that we are tired of. And they see P2B as a new reality, a new Nigeria that we're yearning for. And there are other biases that actually then favor. Because if you also look at it from the premise of fairness, equity, justice, when you put all this together, you see why South-South easily would go Labour way. The same thing in the North Central. And the issue that usually comes to play is Southwest, where Tinubu is from. And even when you look at that, P2B comes close second to Tinubu in the Southwest in almost all the polls. And then the beauty of this election is that the Northwest and Northeast, first is P2B was considered the weakest in those two regions. And number two is trending up. It's looking better as time progresses. So they're beginning to see that indeed this actually should be and might be the best candidate in the poll. And then if you look at the fact that there are many other contending forces there, Atiku is pushing to win Northwest, Northeast. Tinubu is pushing to win Northwest and Northeast. Kwankwaso is also there pulling his weight, and other candidates like Adebayo and co, and then Peter Obi as well pushing his weight there. It tells you that Northwest and Northeast may not be the decider ultimately in this election.
But the key thing here is the arithmetic, which I'm sure you're well aware of. I mean, a lot of people will say, and a lot of people that I know who are experts have said, that Peter Obi may well win the greatest number of popular votes, but it's whether he's going to have that arithmetic spread,
Charles,
across the geographical sort of
I consider
geography of this country.
I consider myself a mathematician. I'm also a chartered accountant. We've done those numbers. What I'm saying to you is that mathematically, the only candidate that stands a chance of actually winning at the first ballot is Peter Obi. And reason is what I've just said to you. I'm also somebody who rely on data, on science, on trend. People keep making the analogies based on primordial, what used to happen. This is not an election of what used to happen. This is a new election governed by new principles.
Yeah, but the Constitution is still clear on what
of
you
course.
need to win.
So there are two things you need to do.
Yeah.
Only two conditions you need to make. One, popular vote. And most people agree that Peter Obi will have a popular vote, win by simple majority. Then people question, will he get a spread? My answer to that is obvious yes. Peter Obi easily, and Dati Baba Ahmed, easily can win the elections 25% in all the states in the southeast, in the south-south, in the north-central, and in the southwest, at a minimum. And if you add all that up, we're already close to 21, 22 states.
That gives you the two-thirds, is that what you're saying?
So you need up to 24 states. Right. There are many states in the north where we can get that easily. We can get that from Kaduna, we can get that from Taraba, we can get that from Borno, we can get that from Adamawa, we can get that from Kano. The reality is that the analysis has since shifted. People used to see Peter Obi as the best candidate, however, who may not win. Now they see Peter Obi as the best candidate who is more likely to win than any other. And if this election was a two-horse race, perhaps the analysis will be anything close to. But it is not. It's a three-horse and in some cases four-horse race. If you look at all the people contending, by the time they split the vote in places that used to dominate, and even all those areas that used to matter, people tell you, Lagos, Rivers, Kano, can tell you, Peter easily can win Lagos State. Peter obviously will win Rivers. And Peter will have a good showing in Kano. When you have all those balancing, you can see clearly why every single poll, without exception, is positioning him as number one.
I'm getting the message that you're putting across, but without breaking your trend of thought, I need to deal with one more nettlesome issue, which I need you to clarify, and that is the report suggesting that Peter Obi offered 40 billion naira to Rabiu Kwankwaso of the NNPP to step down for him, Peter Obi. Let's get that one out of the way.
Obviously, that can only be a fallacy. There's certain things we shouldn't even give airtime to. Honestly, it is unimaginable. I don't even think Peter Obi has such money to offer in the first instance.
Yeah, but Mr. Obi has come out to deny it, which means it's an important thing.
Yeah, so the point here is, so a lot of people would have actually wished for a combination of those two. But I can tell you, we are very excited with the running mate we have in Dati Baba Ahmed. And so this issue is something that can only be coming from an opponent, so that should be totally ignored.
Right, okay. Having said all that, how is the campaign going? Because I know that at one point you had problems in places like Nasarawa State and so on, where the government there or the authorities there were not prepared to give you the kind of leeway to get your campaign going.
Simple response to you is, I am excited what is going on. I am fascinated by the level of enthusiasm, the reception of Nigerians onto this project, and the wider participation of it makes it unique. We go to any place, we don't rent crowd. they come on their own. They spend their money. They belabor themselves under sun, under rain. Even in some cases, we get delayed. They remain there for hours. That is absolute loyalty. And yeah, some places, initially you will see some of the government may want to prove to whoever they work for, their principal, that you can see and try to resist. But I can tell you, what is important for us is the mass, the people in those states. And the last outings we've had have been phenomenal. I mean, you saw what happened in Makurdi, see what is happening even today in Ibadan or your state, or are you talking about Edo? It's incredible. And so what is unique is that from all sides, all parts of Nigeria, whether it's in the north, whether it's in the west, whether it's in the south, we are receiving phenomenal momentum.
Right, and we're looking at pictures on the screen now from Ibadan.
Yes, no, it's impressive. And I thank God also for the governors are now coming out clearly to offer all kinds of support, allowing us to use their big stadium.
Well, you need that support.
Oh, we do.
Because we don't have any governors.
We do. But let me tell you, even if they say no, we will be on the streets, and the people of Nigeria will work with us.
Right. But when is your manifesto likely to emerge? Because we're still not clear, beyond the utterances Mr. Obi makes at various events, of how exactly he plans to pull this country back from the brink on all the multiple crisis levels that Nigeria is currently on.
So I have two quick feedback for you. Number one is the manifesto is actually ready. The campaign council will provide guidance as to when to make it public. Launch it, unveil it, and go on the media to talk about it. As far as I know, from my intelligence, the manifesto is ready. But number two, what for me is even more important is P2B himself is the bundle of manifesto. He speaks to everything he's going to do, not just in terms of the topics, the subject matter, but also the how. If you look at the poll that came out of next year, for instance, it did talk about the key areas of insecurity, of corruption, of economy, the jobs, and then going for the education, health, and all of that. If you listen to everything P2B and Dati have been saying, it's precisely that, and that's their focus. Security, for instance, P2B will be the first to tell you how he will tackle issues of insecurity.
Yeah, but we need to see it
all that are laid down.
How it's going to be done, but what it's going to cost, where you're going to find the money for it.
I'm actually happy that he wasn't quick to just brandish one document, because it makes it like every other person, where they hire beautiful consultants, they prepare speech for them, they go and read from this. He is saying to you, this is what I will do. Record what I'm saying.
Right.
Hold me responsible. And this is how I'm going to do it. You have all you need, which is why, again, the poll, a lot of people have actually made up their mind. The number of people who are undecided are shrinking by the day.
About 7%, according to the latest poll.
For me, I said to people, please, let us make sure we listen to the presidential candidates. Beg them to come to the debates and present their manifesto. Don't tell me what a beautiful consultant has presented. That, for me, is irrelevant. And this is important. Yeah. You guys in the media, you have a lot of role to. If you call for debate and they don't show up, leave their podium empty. Let the world know that they're running away from debate. How can you want to lead me and don't want me to listen to what they're saying? It is actually, I don't want to use some certain words because these are my elders. Please, we need them to show up so that we can interrogate what they are saying. I can hire anybody, pay anybody to present an 80-page, 90-page document, which means nothing at the end of the day when, if, God forbid, they get in there, they will deny every single thing they've said there. Let them come out and tell us from face to face and tell Nigerians what they're coming out to do. That's far more important.
Right, but from your own point of view, do you, your candidate, P2B, your people, make it clear to Nigerians that before the nirvana that you promise, there'll be lots of belt tightening, long stretches of discomfort before things start to improve in this country? Because the impression a lot of people seem to have is that Peter Obi is going to get in there, wave a magic wand, and Nigeria is going to be transformed.
No, not really. Peter Obi is also very clear on the difficulty of the situation, and thank God for the resilience of Nigerians. They've gone through turmoil, hardship, unprecedented, betrayals by leaders over the years. So for them, the moment Peter Obi represents new hope. For them, they see a departure from the old. They see somebody they can place their trust in. They see somebody who is coming to be different. And quite frankly, there will be quick wins for Peter Obi that can actually help to endear Nigerians to him while we do the difficult work. As a leader, once you get on board, the first thing you do, make sure that you don't overpromise and underdeliver.
Right.
Peter Obi doesn't overpromise. He was not going to tell you El Dorado that's going to Nigeria will suddenly become Taiwan. No. He will tell you we're going to be pulling people out of poverty. This is how we're going to be doing that. We will make sure that we recruit enough security personnel, train them, equip them, and go through the 4 layers from the federal to the state to the regional, and even to the community. And when you do all that and you fund those activities, I can tell you things will begin to shape up. Confidence level will begin to bolster, and the private sector will begin to kick in. And once all of that begins to happen, the diaspora, the foreign funding, all of that will start to come in. And when that, you can see job trajectory go up. And that's what it's saying.
Right.
And it means that there will be a time where, of course, quick wins will result. There will also be a time for gestation period for all the other things to happen in the medium to long-term period.
Okay. Valentine, I want to thank you very much indeed for taking the time to come in and talk to us. You had a long day, but you made out the time, and we appreciate it. Valentine Ozigbo is a former governorship candidate in Anambra State and is currently Special Advisor on Technology and Strategic Alliances to the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much. Thank you.